Today, I'm going to be breaking down the 6 biggest mistakes that a lot of women are making when they're trying to tackle leakage on their own. So if you've been doing Kegels and still leaking, or you bought the latest device on Amazon and haven't really seen any change, then this video is for you. I'm going to go over some of the common missteps that actually keep you stuck instead of leak-free. So let's get to the bottom of what's really going on so you can finally start to see the progress that you've been searching for. Number 1 on my list is wasting time. This is on my list for many reasons, but it's number 1 because it's simple, yet it's a really hard thing for women to move past. There is not unlimited time, and one of the worst things you can do that actually keeps you leaking is waste time thinking it's just gonna go away. It's not gonna go away on its own, and as women, and more specifically high achieving women, it's really hard sometimes to understand what you're up against. You may be used to figuring things out on your own, not having to reach out a lot for support, but this really isn't that. I like to use the example of like how you invest your money. So you can even invest, your money into something a little more expensive that will last over time, or you can kind of waste money buying cheap things that just aren't built to last. At the end of the day, the cheaper thing actually costs you more because it's not durable. And you can look at time in the same way. There's 3 ways that I found that people with leakage spend their time. Number 1, you can waste time ignoring leakage. Number 2, you can spend time worrying about leakage. Or 3, you can use your time trying to resolve your leakage. So the second mistake that you can make is chasing external solutions. I don't want to call it a quick fix, but just having the mindset that there's something you're missing, or there's just one thing that you need to know, or whether it's an exercise, or I mentioned earlier, a device on Amazon, or even a high-priced membership to a med spa. All those things have their place, but that constant pull towards something external actually keeps you leaking. There is no one thing or one device because leakage is so multi-layered. If you take some of your habits, a little bit of your beliefs, mixed in with some behaviors that you think are helping, and then add in a sprinkle of muscle dysfunction, you have the perfect recipe for leakage. And in order to really stop it, you need to address all the contributing factors and your body's unique needs. So the third mistake is not having body awareness, or really just not understanding how important your pelvic health is to your overall health, your sexual function, your bowel function. It's all connected. But this one is kind of tricky because I don't want you to go blaming yourself, since this particular point is not really based on any knowledge you should just have. It's really a lack of awareness based on what we aren't taught about our bodies. And it's one of the main reasons so many women stay silent. If you don't have a good understanding of what your body should do, how are you ever going to know when something's wrong or when it's doing something it's not supposed to do? So when we don't have that just general understanding of the body and the function of our pelvic floor, what should and shouldn't happen after a baby, we'll never know what to look for during perimenopause, menopause. And you may think, oh, this is just a part of, getting older. This is just what happens to women when you have a baby. And that's just simply not true. When you have body awareness, you can ask questions, you can feel empowered. You may ask, what are my options? Do I need surgery? Do I not need surgery? Do I have to take this medicine? What is the success rate of all the things that you're offering to me? These are kind of questions that you can ask your health practitioner, because that same level of awareness and consciousness gives you the courage to say, nah, this ain't it. If you start to leak urine with laughing, coughing, or you have pain with sex, you can't have an orgasm, all those things aren't normal. And education about our bodies really releases the shame that takes place when you start to experience those things. Mistake number 4 is relying on temporary fixes and not addressing the root of the problem. So I'm going to put pads in this category, and some women are using liners or even pads that are really designed for menstruation, period underwear. Like, those are all what I consider temporary fixes, and I call them temporary because eventually they're going to stop working for you. And by working, you can compare a pad to a band-aid. It's just a cover up. It may cover up the ugliness of the cut, but you got to kind of let that thing air out when you rip it off so that the wound can heal. Now, I'm not saying that you have to rip off your pad and leakage is just going to go away on its own, but it really is a cover up because it doesn't address the problem. And the reason the fixes are temporary is because you haven't addressed the root of why you're leaking. And I'll share this: leakage happens for a multitude of reasons. There's muscle weakness, which is the main reason people think that they're leaking. There's also muscle tightness. There's the inability you to let go. Sometimes the muscles aren't coordinated. There's behaviors like hovering on the toilet or pushing and straining every time you poop. Those are some big things that cannot be addressed just by wearing pads. So if you start out with liners, that can turn into pads, pads turns into Depends, and then you start with one liner that goes into several liners a day, and now you have a monthly trip to the grocery store to supply your need for multiple pads a day. And I don't say that to scare you, but just to give you an idea of how these temporary fixes actually pull you further and further away from a real solution, which is to stop leaking. And I'll add this, tiny little tidbit is that the makers of pads do an excellent job of making us feel like this is glamorous. The commercials show beautiful women laughing with their friends, but at the end of the day, it is a commercial. They want you to buy pads. You stopping leakage or not leaking puts them out of business. So keep that in mind the next time you run to the store. You can ask yourself, am I really solving the problem, or am I buying these pads as a temporary quick fix just to put a band-aid on something I haven't found the solution for just yet? The sixth and final mistake that I see a lot of women making is allowing shame to keep you isolated. Shame is a very common emotion when we are experiencing something that we think we should be able to fix on our own. It's almost like this cycle. You don't have the body awareness or understanding to realize that this isn't normal. That's based off of cultural beliefs potentially. That shame keeps you isolated, so you never speak up and ask for help. Then you seek out a temporary fix like pads because you just aren't sure what to do. You still have to live your life, and pads gives you that temporary solace so that you're not embarrassed in public, which keeps you feeling the shame based on something that hasn't even happened but you're extremely terrified of. So shame is also one of the main reasons 1 in 3 women suffer from leakage, but only 50% seek support. So shame is a really big component of what keeps you leaking, because it keeps you silent, it keeps you without support, and it ultimately prevents you from getting the help that you need to stop leaking. If any of those 6 mistakes resonate with you, I hope that this provides some level of understanding as to why a quick click on an exercise just won't cut it. And if you'd like to dig deeper to not only stop making these mistakes, but really figure out the cause of your leakage and how to stop it, click the link below to schedule a one-on-one call with me. Bye.